What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review Star Wars Squadrons. So I promised Star Wars Squadrons videos, and I never ended up doing it. Look, this game is difficult. There's a lot that goes into this game. There's the VR aspect of this game, and it just didn't seem right for me to end up covering it, maybe as much as I normally do for other games. So I am sorry about that, but I do want to talk about it here. This is a good spot, I would say, in a review format, right, to talk about Star Wars Squadrons. I really like the game. I like it a lot. And to be honest with you, I haven't even experienced, I would say, the most important thing about it, which could be the VR. I know so many people told me that if you're not playing in VR, you're not even playing it, right? That's not even, you're not getting the full-on experience. So I'll talk about what I have played. I'll talk about what I feel in terms of positives, negatives, and then we'll go from there. So I've played the story. I didn't beat the story, okay, but I've played it enough. I've seen from enough people. I would say as we talked about review scores on this game on my second channel when the review scores came out. And one thing everybody said is that the story is solid, characters are solid, but just nothing really happens. It's not the most, it doesn't have like a big finale. It's not like a huge grabbing thing. From what I've played, I kind of agree. It's a story that gives you enough to do. You're constantly feeling like you're doing different things, which I think is really good. You're meeting characters, right? Hera, Wedge, all these guys. The way they tell the story is pretty cool. I like going into the hangar and basically having like a mission brief. All cool, but even me, playing several of the missions, there's not the biggest reason in my mind to do it. At this point, I'll be honest. At this point, playing the campaign, I would just play it kind of to get my money's worth, because the campaign is decently long. It's around 7 hours. I think the one website I go on is How Long to Beat. I think that's a fantastic website. It takes, because you can actually contribute to it. Right when I was looking at it, it was like 7-ish hours. I've seen other people say like 8 to 10 hours. So campaign's actually pretty meaty. When we were going into this game, there was a lot of talk that, could it be like a 2-3 hour thing? Like, is it going to be super small? No, there's actually quite a bit to do. Again, nothing huge. It's not going to reinvent the wheel, but it's solid. And then the multiplayer, and I guess actually, how you control the ships. So look, that's the biggest thing, besides, I guess, VR. That's the biggest thing. The game is hard. There's just no way around it. The game is difficult. There is, in my mind, a steep learning curve. What I will say is this. I do love it. I love the core mechanics of this game. We will talk about the weakness, which I do flat out think is lack of modes, which ironically I did say the very first time we saw this game, and I got a lot of hate for that, and I would just like to say that I think I'm proven right, and we'll talk about that in a second. The flying is hard. There's a lot to keep track of, I would say. It's a more sophisticated flying game than like you would see in the Battlefront games. Going from this game to Battlefront, I don't actually know like if I would like, I kind of feel like maybe I should. Now, Battlefront 2, for all intents and purposes, is dead, but if it wasn't, or when Battlefront 3 comes out, say, and there is like a fighter mode, I would like to see if I can do it. You know what I mean? Because at the same time, this game is so different from games like that where maybe you can just easily transition. But maybe I would go over to there and be like, you know what? This isn't sophisticated enough. And so I will, that is giving this game credit. I will 1,000% give this game credit for what it was trying to do. There's no other way around it. Each, I would say, fighter class, both by the way, the Rebellion and the Empire, they're both extreme. Flying a TIE fighter is about the most different you can get from flying an X-Wing. But flying an X-Wing and flying a bomber, those are completely different too. The support classes for both of them are actually insanely weird. They're like really weird rectangle kind of things. It's interesting. You can really experiment, and the customization and unlocking different weapons. I actually think some of like the base builds for these ships are actually like good enough. There's a lot there. I will say, in terms of customization and the actual act of fighting in this game and getting better at that, there's a lot there, because you really can vastly change how your ship plays. The base X-Wing to the X-Wing that I have is vastly different. I sacrificed maneuverability for health and shield, and let me tell you, you can feel the difference, because an X-Wing originally feels a certain way, like when you're making turns and when you're trying to do things, like there's kind of an ease to it. Maybe not as much as an interceptor, but there is, and I sacrifice basically all of that. So now my ship kind of flies like a support class ship, but it's got all the other features of an X-Wing. And you know, that's just one example, but that's the depth that this game has. And honestly, it's insanely cool. And then just the actual fighting, I mean, my God, it's hard. You have to focus on your thruster, you have to focus on your weapon power, your shield power, your acceler, all this different stuff. And again, the weapons that you have, I mean, they may do damage long range, they may do damage short range. There's different kinds of, there's like ion, bombs. There's regular like torpedoes. There's so much, and I will say that is insanely good, and it makes me want to play it. And like I said, there's a steep learning curve. It took me, I would say, probably 3 to 5 hours until I started doing better, like actually having a positive kill to death ratio. I was playing as the X-Wing. I'm decent as the X-Wing, I would say right now. Bomber, I just recently, my friend was playing as Bomber. Aviator, I've mentioned him before. I play Avengers with him. He was playing Bomber. I said, should I try it? I tried it, and I actually did like insanely good as the Bomber. So I think there's going to be classes and ships that you feel more comfortable with, but biggest weakness is lack of things to do. There are exactly 2 things to do, and I guess you can say 3, but honestly, I wouldn't even count the third, because the third mode is just one of the first 2, but just with AI instead of actual enemies, or instead of actual human minds. So really, there's 2 things to do. There's dog fights, which are basically team deathmatch, and then there's like a fleet battle, which is basically objectives. You can defend like your flagship, you attack theirs, you destroy like brigates and stuff like that. I mean, it's cool, and destroying their ships, and their ships have like AI, like genius tactile minds of their own, where they're just the greatest shots in the world. I mean, there are some cool things in especially fleet battle. I prefer dogfight, which is again the team deathmatch one, but that's it. That is literally it. And I don't know how much I would play it. This game, ironically, and I don't even know why I'm saying this, but Avengers has more in my mind than a game like this. And you guys know my back and forth mentality on Avengers. The thing with Squadrons is this. It's $40. It's not full price. I wasn't buying it with full price in mind. I wasn't buying it with a full-on game in mind. In fact, I think that's why, and we talked about this again in that review video, I think that's why it's getting pretty solid reviews, because you can say, okay, the story is a little lackluster. You can say, well, there's only 2 online modes, but the customization is there, and the depth of how you actually play is there, and it's not a full-price game. And so can you really say, hey, I mean, you can't. I will say this. You can. I mean, I can say, hey, I would want like 1 or 2 other modes. I think that would probably be a good thing. You can say that, but can you like demand it? Well, it's not a full-price game, so do you expect, if this came out at $60 and there were 2 online modes and it was these modes, I don't think it would be very well received, because it's just not, in my mind, it's not enough. It's absolutely not enough. To be honest with you, again, I don't think it's enough right now. And that's the biggest problem I have with this game is I'm not mad I spent the $40. It's just that this is not a game I would play every single night. Maybe that would have been the case anyway, but because like even for like Battlefront 2, like I actually liked all the flying modes in Battlefront 2, but could you play them for hours and hours and hours every day? No. There would be some days when that game first came out where I would play like 3 hours of just the fighting, the fighter modes, and I'd have a blast, but I couldn't do that every single night. So maybe it's just something with the kind of game, literally the kind of modes and what we're actually doing in this game, that's the issue. That's like, I don't know if you can play it every single day. Whereas Battlefront 2, I could do heroes and villains every single day of my life. You know what I mean? Or I did actually for the first several months of that game. And it's something you can do. But for me, this is not something I can play every single night. And I think I'm going to get bored. And that's my biggest worry, is I think it's going to get stale pretty quick. The maps are really, really awesome. The debris, the different like asteroids that are in it. Some maps are like hugely wide open. Some of them have, like I said, like just like an asteroid field. Some of them have like broken ships in there. I mean, there's some really cool places that you can go. I think adding a couple extra maps could increase the lifespan of this game. It's a game that's solid. It's a game that I don't mind that I spent the money on. It's a game that I was going to get, no matter what. But in terms of a review, right? I don't give review scores, but I do generally talk about the game, and it's up for you. It's up to you guys to make your own decisions, as the channel generally is. I would say if this is a game that you thought was up your alley, it probably is. It's probably something that you could buy and enjoy and be fine with. At the same time, I get how busy this month is. I get how expensive these games are going to be with all the games coming out. November, obviously, with the consoles and with all those games too. I could see why somebody shouldn't get this game. I could see why maybe you would wait. And to be honest with you, so it's $40. I would not be shocked at all if it was $20 for Black Friday in terms of the U.S. I would not be surprised in the slightest, and that would actually kind of make me a little mad because it's like if I just waited a month and a half, I could have spent half the price. We'll see. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it'll be $30, not $20. But I think it's worth it. I also would say it's just not the greatest game of all time. It's not a game I could see myself playing every single night, but I am glad that I purchased it. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what'd you think? Did you play the game? Are you having fun? I know I didn't even mention VR. I didn't play it in VR yet. I have the PSVR. I'm going to be playing it actually this week. I know many people said, it could be the best VR game out there. Now, again, PSVR is not as good as like Oculus Quest and all them, so I think the game actually does have a whole new life with it, with the VR. With that being said, then you could say it was probably made for VR. In fact, I think this game was probably started out as a VR game. With that being said, that's fantastic, but in terms of a base game, I still think I agree with myself in saying that there is a lack of things to do in it, but I don't want to discredit. The VR is absolutely an important aspect. I want to play it. I want to see if that just completely transforms my life, but let me tell you, the PSVR is a pain to set up. Everybody knows that. Again, that's not something that I would play 3-4 hours of like every single day. It's just flat out not. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to this YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all these videos go up, and thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all on the next video.